The 2025 Canadian Grand Prix is about to happen, and there are a lot of top stories to take a look at. And the biggest one is staring at you right in the face. Lance Stroll is back, ladies and gentlemen, so watch the fuck out. Also, Italian media is cooking Lewis Hamilton. They have made a lot of amazing comments trashing Lewis Hamilton, basically calling him washed, and in a way saying that Ferrari has made a wrong investment by getting Lewis Hamilton. Yuki Tsunoda is planning for an alternate career strategy because his Red Bull contract will end after 2025 and nobody seems to be interested in him for the upcoming seasons. That's why he's partnering with all this type of low IQ streamers trying to build an audience base because his seat will probably be filled by Isaac Hadjar, which is bad news for Isaac Hadjar because he's doing really well in the V car. And Rosberg has advised Hadjar to decline any kind of offer that Red Bull gives him to promote him. Now, if Isaac Hadjar drives Max Verstappen Red Bull in the Canadian Grand Prix weekend, if Verstappen does a Verstappen thing and gets a race ban, then Hadjar's V car will be driven by Arvid Lindblad. Now, FIA has recently granted an exemption to him to his super license, so we'll talk a little bit about him and make some speculations. But let's start with the most important story of the weekend, which is definitely Italian media shitting on Lewis Hamilton. We will give a couple of minutes to Lance Stroll towards the end of this video. Let's not pretend we give a fuck about it. We enjoy the Lance Stroll jokes for the comedic effect, but he's an afterthought. Anyway, lots and lots of Italian media outlets have been saying what we all have been suspecting for a long time. Lewis Hamilton is washed. The first one is by Giorgio Teruzzi. On the track, in radio communications, in the interviews, he has to give by contract. Even if he would like to run away to lock himself away, Lewis Hamilton is a dull star. Another thing he says, sixth, with Leclerc back on podium, he's talking about the 2025 Spanish Grand Prix where Lewis Hamilton finished sixth. He was overtaken by Nico Hülkenberg, who was driving a Sauber in the last lap of Spanish Grand Prix, and Charles Leclerc was on the podium. So sixth with Leclerc back on podium, enough to transform his mannerisms, clothes, hairstyles from amazing to annoying. And he's definitely talking about Lewis Hamilton. He's saying that Lewis's different personality, he's obviously different in his getup compared to the other drivers on the grid. And he's saying that earlier it used to be amazing because he was good, and now it's fucking annoying. Another comment is, it's a shame to be here listing the broken promises of a champion who made history. Verstappen remains the Superman of this F1. Hamilton is a man who has lost his This is most hurtful thing. Hamilton is a man who has lost his superpowers. And you know what the superpower is? The superpower is the ability to adapt to a new car. And Lewis Hamilton has lost that ability because he's washed, he's old. And it's not really just age because Fernando Alonso is doing a great job. And he has driven in multiple series, not just in Formula One. But it's probably the vegan thing or whatever it is, but he has lost the ability to adapt to a new car. And that's what he means, that Verstappen remains the Superman of this F1 and Hamilton is a man who has lost his superpowers. He remains in the game exposed in front of an audience that he himself has kept on champagne. Another Italian outlet called La Gazzetta dello Sport, these motherfuckers said, he expects a winning car from Ferrari and Ferrari is waiting for him. They also said, it is bitter to note that Hamilton did not expect this Ferrari, nor Ferrari expect this Hamilton. Perhaps the prospects of the future of Ferrari would be different if Vasseur has convinced the genius Adrian Newey to embrace the red cause after the divorce with Red Bull. One man cannot change the fate of a team of 1,000 people, but he can show the way. Maybe Newey could have done it, but it is becoming increasingly clear that countryman Hamilton cannot. Ouch, first of all. And this is the thing that we have all been suspecting for a long time. And this is also a thing that I've discussed in a previous video a couple of days ago. And this is the problem with Lewis Hamilton. He has lost the ability to adapt to a new car. And another problem with Lewis Hamilton is that throughout his entire career, he has been in decent cars. Since his debut in Formula One, 2007 McLaren, he was fighting for championship. He has a win in Formula One in all of the seasons he competed in, except for 2022 and 2023, because those are the 2 years in which Mercedes were kind of shit. So it is natural that he struggled in those 2 years. But in rest of the seasons in Formula One that he competed in, he has at least one win. So for the majority of Lewis Hamilton's Formula One career, he was in a car that was competitive in maybe not equally competitive or equally dominant in all of the Grand Prix, but definitely competitive compared to what other drivers have been dealing with in their entire career. And because of this peculiarity, he is incapable of driving around issues and imperfections of a Formula One car. If you look at Charles Leclerc, for example, he was in Sauber and then he was in Ferrari when Ferrari was struggling for a bit. So he has this experience of driving around the issues of the car, and you can say that about almost all of the drivers on the grid. Max Verstappen, for example, he was in Toro Rosso, he was driving the car. The Red Bull right now is a very sensitive car with a narrow operating window, and he still manages to drive around those issues and extract maximum performance out of it. The same thing you can say for all of the teams across the grid, including his former teammate George Russell. George Russell was in the Williams, and the Williams was not a perfect car, so he learned how to drive around the issues of a non-perfect Formula One car, the car which is not dialed in, the car like that you have to consciously drive around the track. This is something that Lewis Hamilton has not done as much as other drivers, and that's why when he is in the Ferrari, obviously it's a new team, it's a new car, new design style, and all those type of things. He's shit. That was my phone. You have to excuse me for that. Basically, what I'm saying is Lewis Hamilton has lost the ability to adapt to new machinery. He has lost the ability to learn. And also, he has this lack of experience of driving imperfect cars. So I don't know if Lewis Hamilton's things are going to improve now the Italian media is trading on him. In the upcoming Canadian Grand Prix, there's going to be some amount of pressure, but I think there is always pressure on Lewis. There's always pressure when you're driving for Ferrari. So I guess we will see how things pan out in the upcoming season. The next story to look forward to is Yuki Tsunoda's unfortunate pivot towards a different career. I think he is looking forward to become a streamer and trying to build that kind of audience base. It's a good thing that Red Bull is now helping him build an online audience with all of these low IQ dumb fucking streamers. I don't know who any of these people are, by the way. So he is going ahead and doing this. I watched some bits and pieces of this video. It's very painful to watch because Yuki deep down knows that after 2025, he is not going to have a Formula One contract unless Lance Stroll decides to retire. Then Honda powered Aston Martin may approach Yuki Tsunoda for a seat, but he is not that exceptional anyway. We never had a moment in Yuki Tsunoda's career in which we're like, wow, Yuki definitely is having an amazing run of performances. We never had those moments. We never had that wow moment with Yuki Tsunoda. So he's just gonna, you know, go into obscurity after the end of the season. And he is unfortunately in a car where he cannot perform that well. So when Yuki finally leaves Red Bull, his seat is going to be taken by Isaac Hadjar. And Nico Rosberg gave some amazing advice to Isaac Hadjar that to not take the second Red Bull seat. Because first of all, being Max Verstappen's teammate, you are always going to be behind because Verstappen is the best of the best of the best. He doesn't like to come second and he takes things personally. When Sergio Perez, after the 2023 Azerbaijan Grand Prix, said to the media that I will compete against Max Verstappen in the World Championship, Max Verstappen took that personally. By the end of the 2023 season, Verstappen had more points deficit, not deficit, but like more points advantage to Sergio Perez than the amount of points Sergio Perez scored. Perez, I think, scored around 265 points or something, and Max Verstappen had 292 points more than Perez. It was like 575 or something. So if you're Max Verstappen's teammate, obviously you're going to be in his shadow. Forget all of your fucking dreams about being a world champion. You are never becoming a world champion unless Max Verstappen, decides that he has won enough and he decides to retire. If Red Bull designs a dominant car or a car that is capable of winning championships, Hajar ain't winning shit. He's gonna win a race here and there. He's gonna, stand on the podium here and there, but he's definitely ain't beating Max Verstappen if Verstappen is his championship. He's gonna chew him up and he's gonna spit him out. Another issue about Isaac Hajar is that Hajar is now doing really great in the vis-a-vis carb. So he is saying that Nico Rosberg said that if I was Hajar, if the team ever started to mention a potential switch to Red Bull, I would literally decline as hard as you possibly can. He is doing such a great job with the Racing Bulls. He is in a great position. Just flat decline and say no way. He is actually right. But unfortunately, Hajar is not going to take this advice because in an earlier interview, he said if they ask him for the second seat, he's going to say yes. And you kind of have to understand the logic of the French guy because you go to Formula One to drive for a championship winning team so that you can win championships. That's the entire objective. He's not here to fuck around. Unfortunately, if he goes to Red Bull when Max Verstappen is still in Red Bull, he is never winning a championship. This is something Hajar needs to understand. Red Bull are not, you have to be such an exceptional driver, a generational talent, in order to force Red Bull to prioritize you as much as they prioritize Max. I'm not sure if Isaac Hajar is on that level. Maybe he is, but he is not on that level right now. Right now, if he goes to Red Bull, he's going to be in Verstappen's shadow forever. Even if he gets some performance out of the car, he will still be behind him. Right now, Isaac Hajar's best strategy for the future is to continually outdrive the Racing Bull so that other teams get interested in him and get him out of that toxic Red Bull family. Because it's always better to be a driver in McLaren, for example, or Mercedes, for example, or even Ferrari, not Ferrari, because you're going to become the butt of the joke, of some other fucking team, whatever it is. It's always better to go to a different team rather than become the second driver in Red Bull, where the first driver is Max Verstappen. And even Adrian Newey is not there, so I don't think Red Bull bouncing back after the 2026 regulation change. So we'll see about that. The final story is the FIA granting an exemption to the potential new Max Verstappen. There's a lot of hype behind this kid, and he is good. I have seen, some of his moves. It's decent, whatever. Formula One is a different ball game altogether, but we will see how he performs. One of the good things that will happen with Erwin Lindblad if Max Verstappen gets a race ban is that he will get to drive the Visa Cash App Racing Bull. He's not going to get to drive the Red Bull. The Red Bull, like Max Verstappen's Red Bull in the event of a Max Verstappen ban, will be given to Isaac Hajar for the weekend. They're not going to give Liam Lawson the Red Bull because you know what happened in Melbourne and in China. So after that, Liam Lawson, they will not let Liam Lawson anywhere near the Red Bull. So it's definitely going to be Isaac Hajar and Yuki Tsunoda driving for Red Bull in a race weekend if Max Verstappen gets that one extra penalty point by doing some Max Verstappen shenanigans, which means this kid, Arvid Lindblad, he will be driving for the Racing Bulls, which is actually a good news for him. Racing Bulls is a much more stable team. They're much more welcoming of young talents, and they provide a good nurturing environment. The car is also significantly stable compared to the Red Bull and easier to set up, which means that he will have a good experience, good first experience into Formula One if it lasts for one Grand Prix weekend. So that's what Lindblad should be praying for. The final story, which is probably the biggest story of the weekend, is Lance Stroll returning to Aston Martin after a brief hiatus in the Spanish Grand Prix. This is horrible news for Aston Martin because, first of all, in Spain, they had only one car in the race, Fernando Alonso, God bless him. He scored a couple of points after Max Verstappen's penalty. If Lance Stroll decided to sit out Canada, then they would have given the seat to Felipe Drugovich. And this would have given an opportunity for Aston Martin to know how shit Lance is. Obviously, anyone is going to look shit as compared to Sebastian Vettel, Lance's previous teammate. Everyone is going to look shit compared to Fernando Alonso, Lance's current teammate. I'm not talking about everyone in general, I'm just talking about like average drivers. So average drivers will always look shit compared to Sebastian Vettel and Fernando Alonso, right? Because these motherfuckers are great. So if you put Felipe Drugovich, you will actually see how a decent normal Formula One driver drives the car, which is something that Lance Stroll cannot do. And this could inspire the top dogs in Aston Martin to consider Felipe Drugovich as their future and, kind of like get Lance Stroll out of the fucking team because it's not doing anyone any favors. So that these are all of the top stories. I guess we will see how Lewis Hamilton deals with the pressure from the Italian media. We will see how successful of a streamer Yuki Tsunoda becomes after his eventual and inevitable departure from Red Bull. We will see how Isaac Hadjar deals with the pressure of being in a Red Bull in one race weekend if Max Verstappen gets a race ban. And obviously, we will see if the hype behind Lindblad is true. Thank you for watching, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.